The history of the Black community in Nova Scotia goes back to 1608, where we find a Black man by the name of Matthew de Costa, who worked as an interpreter and a translator for the French in their interaction with the Mi'kmaq people. Matthew de Costa was a free man. However, as the century progressed and more Blacks arriving in Nova Scotia, they came as enslaved people. Later on, the New England planters brought in hundreds of enslaved Black people from New England. Between 1777 and 1783, 3,500 Black loyalists arrived from the United States. These loyalists had fought for the British during the American Revolutionary War. Additionally, 2,000 enslaved people owned by white loyalists also arrived in Nova Scotia and Cape Breton. In 1796, around 600 Maroons arrived from Jamaica. These Maroons had been deported from the island by the British. Later on, the Maroons migrated to Sierra Leone. Between 1813 and 1817, at least 3,000 people, called the refugees of the War of 1812, also arrived in Nova Scotia. Like the Black Loyalists, they had fought for the British during the late war, which was the War of 1812. In 1834, slavery was abolished in the province. However, this did not mean social and economic equality for Black people. Black people continued to face restrictions on their lives and on their livelihood, such as segregated schooling, restriction in public places of entertainment, and economic injustice. Blacks around the world, however, continued migrating to Nova Scotia between 1813 and 1865. We have folks arriving from the United States on the Underground Railroad. And at the end of the century, or as the century progressed, this is the 19th century, you had Caribbean merchant seamen and their families arriving in the province. In the first 3 decades of the 20th century, around 600 persons from the Eastern Caribbean arrived in Cape Breton Island to work in the coal and steel industries. Despite the racism that Black people endured in Nova Scotia, they built institutions such as religious institutions, schools, and other places of learning, fraternal and other social organizations, and they trained as professionals.